quorum?
Yep,
We
and you're
do.
ready to go. You're live.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. We're all ready. We'll get started for the Zoning Board of Adjustments meeting, regular meeting agenda for Monday, August 31st, 2020, and it is 1:59 p.m. And we do have called the meeting to order, and we do have a quorum. Item number 2 is to review and take any action related to the minute record of the regular meeting held on Monday, July the 6th, 2020. Everyone had a chance to look over the minutes?
Yes.
All right. Need a motion to approve?
I motion to approve the minutes.
Here a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, it passes. How many do we have on here? 7?
8.
Yeah, 7.
7 passes 7-0. Item agenda number 3, ZBA 20-2058 Buick Street, Tungate. Single member district number 2, Tom Thompson. A request for approval of a variance from section 511.H.1 of the zoning ordinance to allow all weather surface parking and maneuvering for new parking area in lieu of the required paved parking and maneuvering for a property located at 58 Buick Street. And let's see, is Jeff going to be presenting this or who?
Should be Jeff.
Hello, Jeff.
Okay,
Talk to us about it.
can you all see my screen okay? Can you see
Yes.
the presentation? Okay, here we go. Jeff Fisher, Principal Planner. So our first case today is ZBA 2020-58 Buick Street. This is a variance to allow an all-weather surfacing and maneuvering area for a new parking lot at the back of 58 Buick Street. It is Snyder Technologies is the company. It's on 1.463 acres, 58 Buick, District 6, Billy DeWitt, in the ASU College Hills neighborhood. The zoning is office commercial CO, which allows the use. And we received 4 letters in support in the Green Star areas over here around the property, and support, none opposed. This is looking west on Buick Street and south. There's a storage facility to the south, Angelo Skate Park and Roses as you go further to the east on Buick. This is the current property in the front. There are 20 paved parking spaces on the property already. The current office only needs 10. So what they want to do is on this east picture here, behind here where there's Caliche, they want to have a new carport built. They've got a building permit in for review and allow that to be Caliche parking just due to some different factors and the fact that it's behind the fenced area here. So this would allow 10 new parking spaces, or a little bit oversized, 10 by 25. Zoning ordinance requires 9 by 18. So this is looking through the fence. You've got Mitchell Toyota on this side. So this is where it would go. It's going to be 50 feet long of a driveway that connects to the existing paved parking lot. And then it's going to turn here, 24 feet maneuvering in front of the parking is required. And then the parking spaces will sit underneath a carport that's going to be built pretty much where you see the car and the truck here. So here's a bird's eye view. As I mentioned, a building permit site plan application is in for review pending this approval today. So all of this is paved in the front. And again, they've got more than double the required parking already. This is just for fleet vehicles. That's what I understand from the applicant. This is just for additional parking only for their employees. This will not be for customers. So you'll drive in through the gates like this, come around the back and just park in this red area over here. And so the variance today is to allow the parking spaces themselves, as well as the driveway and the maneuvering area. So basically everything under the red carport and everything in the gray to be an all-weather caliche surface instead of the required paved surface. So looking at the allowed variances, we believe there's a special circumstance resulting in a hardship. There's an existing 7-foot-high wood privacy fence which fully screens the parking area. The parking area is only used for employee vehicles, and again, as I mentioned, they're over by 10. What makes this, I guess, a special circumstance besides these criteria? In section 511 of the zoning ordinance for parking, all new parking, whether it was required or not, since 2019, when we changed that section of the ordinance, has to be paved unless they get a variance from the ZBA. So there are some exceptions if you have a special use or if it's just for storage only. So even though they're for employee vehicles, they're not just like a repair shop that's just storing vehicles. We believe the fact that it's behind a fence, that it's not really for customers, it serves as storage. So it is very similar to that provision that would have allowed all-weather surfacing anyway. And again, they're over by 10. The special circumstance we've just talked about, it's not the result of the applicant. The privacy fence was already there. So there was already a caliche area behind the fence even before they purchased the property in November of 2018. It's a small parking lot. One of the reasons we closed that gap when we wrote the new section of the parking ordinance, we said all parking had to be paved, is because of drainage issues. So if this was 50 parking spots or 100 parking spots, or just something that's going to flood onto Sherwood Way, we'd have some major concerns. I think for the 10 parking spots in the small area behind the fence, we were okay with it. It's the minimum action necessary. No adverse impacts on the adjacent neighborhood. They're surrounded by commercial uses and they're fenced in. And finally, we believe it's consistent with the intent of the zoning ordinance to provide for adequate parking. Staff recommends approval of a variance from 511H1 of the zoning ordinance to allow an all-weather surface parking and maneuvering for a new parking area in lieu of the required paved parking and maneuvering for a property located on 58 Buick, subject to 2 conditions of approval. Number 1, they get a building permit and any other required permits. They're already going through that process. And number 2, they submit a revised site plan that delineates 7 existing paved parking spaces in the front. I know that diagram was hard to see, but it actually shows 6. So they're even over by 1 more extra. They just need to show that on a revised plan. So that concludes staff's presentation. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and feel free to jump in if you have any questions or comments.
Thank you, Jeff. Any questions for Jeff?
So what triggered this approval? Was it because they were trying to get the carport and they had pulled a permit for that? Is that what triggered it since it was already there?
That's correct, Ms. Hamby.
I have a comment, this is housekeeping stuff here. When I read the agenda, it said single member District 2, Tom Thompson. And then the staff report says it's, what did it say? DeWitt, Billy DeWitt.
Okay.
Does that need to be corrected in the minutes?
I don't think so, but I do appreciate you letting me know. We sometimes use a standard template, so we'll be more careful.
So
Yeah,
it's-
we will correct that in the minutes. Thank you for catching that.
It's District 6, right?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Are there any stormwater requirements on this kind of stuff when you're not paving and parking vehicles or over an acre? Yeah,
Do we have, I think city engineer, if they're here, would be able to address that?
They're not available at this point. They're not on the call, but we
it's
have
right.
notified them of this request for the zoning board of adjustments, and I don't believe any comments have been made. The existing area was already, I would say the majority of it was compacted base before they're adding this structure. So they're actually not adding any additional compacted base to the area. I believe they're just maybe shoring it up a little bit, but basically putting the carport on top of it. And Doug is available for inventory awning. He's representing the owner of the property and may be able to answer that as well as to exactly the pieces that are going into the whole project.
Yeah, I mean, the base was already there. All that we're trying to do is just put the 10 by 25 carport on it. I'm sorry, the 25 by 100 carport.
no one's here to answer the stormwater requirements, which is fine. That's it. That's all I have. Any, we just had public comment, I guess, from Doug. You want to say anything else?
No, sir, I'm here just to answer questions. I can't think of anything else I need to say.
Okay, all right. Any board comments?
I'll motion to approve this. Sorry.
Got a motion on the table for approval. Got a second?
I second.
Got a second? Let's have the vote. All in favor, say aye. Any nays? Okay, it passes 7-0.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Doug. Good luck. All right, item number 4, ZBA 20-22, 2317 Sherwood Way, Stango. Single member district number 5, Lane Carter. A request for approval of a variance from section 511 of the zoning ordinance to allow for 8 parking spaces in lieu of the required 10, and to allow 0-foot maneuvering area for the 3 parking spaces adjacent to Sherwood Way right-of-way in lieu of the required 15 feet for property located at 2317 Sherwood Way. And let's see here. Staff, who is doing this one?
I have that one, but I don't seem to be sharing my screen.
I see you. I see you. Hi, Sherry.
Yeah, we can see it, Sherry.
Okay. What is before you today is ZBA 2022. It's at 2317 Sherwood Way. It is a request for a variance to allow 8 parking spaces in lieu of 10. Yes? Okay, excuse me just one moment. Some people can see it and some people can't. Can all of the board see it?
It's on YouTube for sure. So I think we're good. Just keep presenting.
Okay. With a 0-foot maneuvering area along Sherwood Way, the right of way right there. This is a piece of property that's 0.161 acres. As I indicated, it's at 2317 Sherwood Way, District 5, Lane Carter in the Santa Rita neighborhood. As you can see, the zoning for the area is general commercial, heavy commercial. We did send out 17 notices. I did not receive any in support or any in opposition. I had 2 calls and they both indicated over the phone that they were in support. I've taken the photograph of the front of the building. That is a 25-foot truck that's parked in that front area. Normally, it would not be a truck that would be parked there. Generally, it would be a car or a pickup truck. And there's still backup maneuvering space behind the truck. Mr. Stango intends on removing that front area right here and putting up cement barriers within a little bit more because there's 8 feet here. And so he's going to move it in just a little bit more to give them more backup space. And this shows you next to that truck, there are 2 overhead door areas and the parking can come in closer in front of those door areas. This is the back of the property. And as you can see, there are 2 cars that are already there. The entire area in the back is paved. It will just need to be striped. There's enough room for 2 more cars and a car over here in front of the side building. And then the people who park there will enter through this door. The door goes directly into a space that has been a storage space that leads directly into the retail area of the store. And the retail area of the store will be about 1,100 square feet. This is the proposed parking layout with three spaces in the front. One will be the ADA space, then there'll be 2 other spaces, and then the 5 spaces in the rear of the property. You're familiar with the allowed variances. In this case, we're looking at an overriding public interest because this area of town is part of that viable commercial area that is still very active, and it's been in use since the 50s. The parking here was always pull in front of the store and then back out. And the applicant is just asking to use that, and our ordinance does allow us to do that, and you have allowed it in the past. The request is also keeps with the intent of the parking code, and yet it still allows the property to be used. And this is one of the few properties in the area that is coming in with a change of occupancy. And so they're having to meet the new parking code that we adopted in 2019. And that code has a significant impact on an existing area. This also will function as a good example for other commercial buildings in that area as they might change occupancy to give those tenants an idea of what they're going to have to provide. Again, we use the special circumstances. The area's been in use. It was built in 1949. It's been in use since that time. The building and front area parking is well established in that area, and they're wanting to use what's already there. Literal interpretation would really deprive the property owner of being able to use his property in a commercial fashion, which we like to encourage in that area. It is the minimum action needed to accomplish what he wants to do. It's really just giving him a variance for 2 spaces and allowing him to use that right away as a backup space. We don't anticipate any adverse impacts, and we believe it's consistent with the zoning ordinance. Staff is recommending approval of the variance from section 511 of the zoning ordinance to allow 8 spaces in lieu of the required 10, and to allow a 0-foot maneuvering space along Sherwood Way for the subject property, and it will be subject to 4 conditions of approval. We are recommending that the applicant shall obtain a change of occupancy and any other permits which are necessary for him to open up his retail business. The applicant, we're also recommending the applicant place a rear parking sign in the front so that people are aware that they can park in the back of his building and have access to the retail area. We are requiring that the applicant paint the parking spaces, including the ADA van accessibility space, and to paint both in the front and the rear parking areas. And we are adding the condition that any additional use of the existing building or space other than what is currently proposed will require us to take another look at the parking configuration. With that, staff has completed their presentation. Are there any questions?
Sherry? Y'all have any questions for staff?
So Sherry,
Yes.
are they parking in front of those garage doors? Does that mean they aren't using those as doors?
They are not using those as doors, no. And won't be. Are there any other questions?
Okay.
No, any public comment?
I see Dale there. Maybe he's representing Steve Stengel.
He is.
Dale, you have any public comment? to add to
Dale,
it?
you're on mute.
No, I'm just here on behalf of Steve Stango. And everything that you heard is in line with what Mr. Stango is proposing to do. And he just needs this zone variance to be able to get his parking situation.
Okay, thank you, Dale. Any more comments from the board?
Nope.
Motion?
I said a motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve as is with the conditions? Yes. Do I hear a second?
Second.
A second. Let's go to vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any nays? Passes 7-0.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Dale.
Take care. Next item. Item number 5. ZBA 2024-820 North Oak Street, Galindo, Single Member District 3, Harry Thomas. A request for approval of a variance from section 501 of the zoning ordinance to allow a 14 foot 5 inch front yard setback in lieu of the required 25 foot for a home within the 2-family residential RS2 zoning district located at 820 North Oak Street. Hillary, is this yours?
Yes, sir, it is. So good afternoon. My name is Hillary Bucher. I'm the planning manager for the city. This is a variance to allow 14.5-foot front yard setback in lieu of a required 25 feet. It's a little under 0.12 acres. We're at 820 North Oak Street. So we're at the corner of North Oaks and East 9th, Harry Thomas's district in the Reagan neighborhood. So looking at the aerial here, you can see we have a corner lot. There are homes that face North Oaks and homes that face East 9th Street. So this became a double frontage lot. And that's where we ran into some problems with building a new home. So it is 2-family residential zoning district. They don't have the square footage needed to build 2-family. So they're proposing to build a 1-family residence. We did send out 24 notifications and received none in opposition and none in support. I received a couple of phone calls, people just wanting to understand what they were doing, but after hearing that, you know, they're going to build a brand new home and they were just asking for a reduced front on the side where it faces East 9th, most of them were supportive. So in these pictures here on the left, you're looking at the subject property. You can see it's a fairly normal size lot. The problem runs into the fact that it's a double frontage. The picture on the right just shows kind of the rear of the lot and how the home will look from the back side. So I've took a picture of a couple homes in the area. You can see that most of them are fairly close to the street. It runs along the block. They don't have these huge setbacks along East 9th. So here's the proposed site plan the home builder has presented to us, and Mr. Galindo, I believe, is on the line if you have questions. If we were to imagine the setbacks as normal, the home could only be 20 feet wide. So he's asking for 14.5 foot to allow a 30-foot wide home. This lot would allow us to build a 55-foot lot depth, but again, the smaller home wouldn't be feasible or not as buildable, not as desirable as the 30-foot wide home. So there's 3 things we can look about. One thing we consider on the special circumstance is when this lot was platted, it was platted with a non-conforming home on this lot. So at that time, I can't speak to why they looked to replat this, but the non-conforming home actually did not meet the double frontages at that time. That home has been since removed, and here we are with a 50-foot wide double frontage lot, which really limits the way they can build on this acreage. So there's 2 others we could look at: public interest and little enforcement. Again, we went with a special circumstance. So the lot was platted in 97 with a non-conforming home. It no longer exists. The 50-foot wide lot with double frontage would only allow a 20-foot wide home. The previous owner replatted, which now limits the buildable area. So that's not the result of the applicant. The 55 buildable area is not consistent with the other lots in the area. So the other lots would have a lot larger buildable area, just if it's a standard lot. The variance will not make would make the lot buildable and consistent with other homes. We see no adverse impacts. Granting the variance will allow a setback that is consistent along East 9th. We tried originally to establish a building line. Our zoning ordinance allows us to establish a building line if more than 30% of the homes, I think it's 30 or 35% of the homes don't meet the 25-foot. Along this area, most of them were about at 17, but he really needed 14, which meant he had to come to this board. Again, this will provide open space between structures since this side is actually near a road right away, and the right of way is a little bit bigger than we would normally have at 10 feet. So staff is recommending approval of the variance from section 501 to allow a 14.5-foot front yard setback in lieu of the required 25 for a home within the 2-family zoning district of approval. And that's simply that they pull a building permit as required. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I do, Hillary. I see the plot plan. I'm okay with everything on it. The one thing that I don't want to see happen is some kind of fencing or something to block, if you're coming down Oak Street, to be able to look down 9th Street to see if traffic's coming.
Sure. So this variance does not preclude them from the fencing requirements. That fencing would still, if it's in the front yard, which is we're allowing a front yard of 14.5, but in that front yards, they can only be 4 feet tall. So they would have to be out of the front yard on South Oaks by 25 feet. We're not varying that today. And they would have to be out of the front yard of East 9th by 14.5 feet to start their 6-foot high fencing. Before that, they'd have to be 4 foot. So we're not asking to vary that with today's variance.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for staff?
So Hillary, are they fronting, and I apologize, I can't pull this up on my phone. Are they fronting onto Oaks?
They are. The house will front onto Oaks. That is correct. So there will be a 1-car garage and a driveway that will front out onto Oaks. It's very similar to the house directly south of them.
Okay.
Public comment?
I think Toby Galindo's on here and we'll see if he can, I think he's muted right now, but if he has anything else to add.
Can you hear me, Hillary?
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay, I'm on my cell phone and I have calls coming in and it's interrupting the phone as I'm trying to do. I'm really a nerd at this. I'm not sure what I'm doing, so please forgive me. Thank you, Hillary, for helping me out as much as you did. I'm really lost to this process, and it's first time for me. So thank you.
Yes, sir. Do you have anything you'd like to add to the board?
No, sir. No, ma'am. I mean, I think you've covered everything real good. I couldn't have said any better myself. You did a great job with that.
Thank you.
Any board comments? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Your second?
I'll second.
Got a motion to approve with the second. Let's have the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Ayes have it, 7-0. Thanks, Toby.
Thank you very much for your help and your time. Thank you.
Motion carries. Next item, where are we going next? Division report, item 6.
I know John has talked about this several times. We should probably just put this on recording, but currently the governor's orders allow us to have these digital meetings that could change at any point. So we are kind of going on a month-by-month basis. I know Sherry will be in touch with you as we move forward to see what we do. This meeting, we were able to place the September agenda items on the meeting. So we will not have a September meeting because of the time frame. We were able to push both of them together. So the next meeting would be in October. And again, she'll keep up with each of you as the time goes on.
How's our recruiting going?
I think Sherry can probably answer that a little better, but I think we have one scheduled to be on city council for appointment, either the next meeting or the next one, and then there's two others kind of in the pipeline as we go forward. So
Right.
we'll have 3 possible new alternates and or replacements.
Good. So the next meeting will be Monday, October the 5th.
Yes.
Okay, item number, we're done here, item number 8, do I hear a motion for adjournment?
I said a motion to adjourn.
The second,
I'll make,
Second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Be well.
Thank you,
you.
everyone. We appreciate it.
aye.